Okay, good morning, everyone, and good afternoon for some of you on the East Coast, and welcome to the Catherine Sharon Zoom baking classes with Sephardic Bikur Cholim congregation. We are so excited that you're here to join us today, and we have a special guest chef today, Sarah Varon, all the way from Renton, who is going to be leading what I think, for me, is the quintessential classic Sephardic dish, which is Borekas. It's definitely a Hassan favorite, and I know it's probably a favorite with you. So I'm really happy that Sarah, who is a fourth generation Seattleite, is going to be third or fourth generation. Yeah, going to be leading us in showing us the classic Turkish approach to Borekas. So take it away, Sarah, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. As Rabbi said, I think it's fourth generation Seattle Sephardic. My grandparents were born in Seattle, and their parents are from Turkey, Istanbul, Constantinople. For my whole life, I've been a member of SBH, Sephardic Bikur Cholim, but I'm very excited to see faces from across the country, and maybe a few from Israel.
No, there's nothing. There's no voice. Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook.
Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Thumbs up? Yeah, you can hear me okay. Okay. So I'm going to get started here. What qualifies me to make Borekas? It was kind of a question about, I'm fourth generation and a little younger, and, there's probably plenty of people on this call who are probably more qualified than I am, but I have been learning how to bake Sephardic delicacies since I was very, very little. I spent a lot of time in the SBH kitchen. I spent a lot of time in my own kitchen and the kitchen at the Klein-Gallen home with my noni, Clemens Varon. My grandparents Clemens and Meyer were very active in the synagogue, and we always all the holidays was super important to have borekas and bulamas and biscochos and all the fun things. And my dad made it a big point to learn these things before, unfortunately, my grandparents passed. And I feel so fortunate to have spent that time in the kitchen with a lot of wonderful people. Catherine Sharon, who the whole thing's in honor of, I've learned from her. Lily DeJean, I have to give a shout out. She was my noni's best friend. They used to bake a Klein-Gallen together. So very fun. At Ellie Varon, the list goes on and on. So I also did 3 or 4 test rounds, so I feel like you're in good hands. So without further ado, I'm just gonna get started. I think everybody has the ingredients that they need from the Google Doc. My standing mixer is over here. I'm gonna bring you closer to me. So I might turn around, but I'll turn right back. The one thing about Borekas is you can be this may be blasphemy for some, but a little bit more casual with the ingredients. It doesn't have to be the perfect measurement. And that's kind of what I like, because it's very Sephardic. You go by the feel and not necessarily, the even cups and whatnot. So let's get started. First things first, we have some vegetable oil. And this is an oil-based dough. So we're gonna do 1 cup. This is the one thing that I measure, is the oil. 1 cup of vegetable oil, or canola, you can use olive, you can really use anything. This dough is very forgiving. Vegetable is the cheapest and easiest, so I'm gonna do 1 cup in my standing mixer. Okay, it's 1 cup oil to about 3/4 cup warm water, which I just recently filled. So I'm gonna use the same, just not to dirty things, but I'm only gonna fill it about 3/4 of the way. So wet ingredients first. Okay. Then come the dry ingredients. And for Borekas, it's really just flour, a little bit of salt. So I do have a measuring cup in here. It's about 5 cups, but with baking, you never know. It could be the weather, it could be the temperature of your home, your ingredients. We're just gonna go by feel, and I'm gonna take you with me over here to kind of see what I'm doing and what that looks like and what kind of consistency I'm looking for. So I'm gonna bring this with me over here. the noise. Okay. This is my mixer. All right. Here's my flour. The first about 2 cups, again, see, I'm not measuring. It's more than a cup. I'm not leveling off. First about 2 cups, I'm gonna mix first, just to get, make sure things don't go flying. Turn that on nice and slow. Get the flour a little bit incorporated. When I feel like there's enough mixture going on that things aren't gonna fly if I add more flour, I'll just give you a preview for you. It's very, very wet. It's a wet dough right now. I'm gonna continue to add another 2 cups of flour. That 5th cup is really gonna be dependent on if I need it or not. And I will let you know as we go. Start my mixer slow, and then I kind of pick up the pace. Hope you guys can see that. So this is getting incorporated. Turn that on a little higher. Okay. So I just actually want to show you, this crumbliness is fine, but this, to me, because there's still more flour on the sides and it's still crumbly, can you see that? It's a little too crumbly. I want my dough to be a bit more wet and moist. I can tell that this is too much flour. So I really used 4 heaping cups of flour, and that ended up being already too much. We can always add more, but instead, right now, we're gonna add a little bit more of our wet ingredients to get that moist dough. So just a little bit of oil. Again, I'm not measuring, it's gonna be by, I'm just trusting my Sephardic instincts. A little bit of water, get that back mixing up. Turn it on higher. This dough should form a ball by itself. It's gonna, if it gets to the consistency I want, I won't have to do much hand mixing. Already I can see it's probably not enough moisture, so I'm still gonna continue to add. And you'll see once I have the dough done what I'm looking for. So keep adding a little bit of liquid. Some of you may have gotten this right on your first try, and that's amazing, but you know, you really just gotta go with the flow of the dough. I can see that it's picking up from the sides and it's forming a ball, which is really good. I'm gonna let it do its thing for a little bit before I decide if I need to add anything else. Oh, and I forgot salt. Now would be a good time to add salt. You definitely want a nice pinch of salt in your dough. The cheese filling is pretty, just a nice big pinch. Might do 2. The cheese filling is very salty, but you need to have the salt in the dough as well. Otherwise, it's not balanced. Okay. All right, let's give this a little feel. Oh, this is gonna be good. Okay, great. Trusted my instincts and I'm not gonna regret it. So the dough, you can see, has kind of formed a ball mostly already by itself. I'm gonna help it out a little, bring the dough together in a ball. And it's pretty bouncy. And
Sarah, just a question on, is it a pinch of salt or a tablespoon of salt?
If you feel more comfortable measuring, I would use a tablespoon of salt to the 1 cup of oil, 1 tablespoon of salt. If you are feeling too much, Jeannie, I'm looking at Jeannie. She said no. Hold on. Jeannie, turn your mic on.
Hello?
What did you say?
That's a lot of
Too much salt? I think it's a teaspoon of salt. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
There we go. Teaspoon.
Whoa.
I got Charlene to nod her head along. Whatever Jeannie says goes. For me, it was just a pinch. I think my pinches were fine in terms of measurement, but that's the thing, I don't measure. So I think the document that you have, if you're baking along, is correct. But my middle of the, thank you for clarifying. Got substitute notas here to give me some clarification. So it's about a teaspoon of salt to the dough, or a nice pinch.
And Sarah, I'll just let you know, there's over 50 people on here. We're all enjoying what you're
Wonderful,
doing.
wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so the dough is actually, this is a lovely, lovely dough. It's going to be hard to tell. It's really by feel. But again, my fingers bounce right back up. It's kind of like a Play-Doh, but it's pretty oily. I'm not going to lie. Your fingers are going to have some oil residue, and that's exactly what we want. We do want it to be oily. So now I'm gonna take my dough and put it on my floured counter, which I'm gonna move the camera, so bear with me. And we'll move the dough and we'll start rolling it out. I actually have some pre-rolled out and cut dough. And you know what, while we're over here, I'll just show you. These are the test batch Borekas that I did today.
Oh, bendichos manos, those are beautiful.
Thank you so much. So hopefully those of you baking along will get something similar. I'm going to teach you how. Okay, so let's get the camera over here. Here you can see I have my pre-made, but we'll get to that point. Just want to catch you guys up. So you're going to lightly flour your surface. A clean surface, I should add. If your surface is not clean, you'll come to regret that later. So this surface was cleaned. I've been doing Borekas earlier. I'm gonna get a little flour.
Sarah, you've trained my girls well. They were busy cleaning all the counters this morning, so they had a clean surface for this.
Yeah. You don't want any meat in your milk Borekas or anything like that, dirt, hair, all the fun stuff. So I floured my surface. It's wonderful to see you all, but I'm gonna focus here on the Borekas so that you can see what I'm doing. Hope that's okay. I'll come back up for a look-see later. So here we go, back down. And I'm bringing out my dough, the start of the show. So we have the dough here. It's already formed its own ball. I had very little to do with it coming together. I'm just gonna make it into a tighter ball, get a little of the excess flour, shape it. And we're gonna let it just rest a little bit once we have our dough ball mostly formed while we make the filling. It's gonna go on the inside. Okay. So I actually have my filling pre-made, but I will still walk you through what you need to do to get yours made. So the bowl here. If you, this is where you can, here we go. If you read the recipe, and this is how I learned it, true to form, I learned it that you use the flakes, the dehydrated potatoes. So you would think, oh, you know, all of the nonas out there would say, no, you have to use real potatoes. Honest truth, this is the better route. So it's okay that you think it's a shortcut. It tastes better. The Boreka that you know and love comes from this pouch here. OUD, by the way, we got these at Costco. They came in like a 10 pack, right, of this. What I like to do is use 2. So I start with 1, pour it in. And then I'll do maybe half of the other one, pour it in. And then you more or less follow the instructions on the back, but I think that's too much water. So I would do just enough water for 1 pouch. It says 2.5. Boiling water, you don't need it, just warm water. Get it all nice mixed so that all the flakes are incorporated. The reason why I leave half out is because if you accidentally add too much water, you can add it back in, because the consistency that we're looking for is, the lighting is a little hard here, but it is like smooth and incorporated and mixed. All the flakes are mixed, but it does have a softness to it. And to that mixture, as you're mixing it all up, you're gonna add your 1-to-1 ratio of feta and Parmesan cheese. So I like to use, again, this is something I eyeball. It's not so important to me that it's measured out, but if you're in for measurements, it's about a cup of each. If you like more of one cheese over the other, if you like to add like Asiago or Romano or a different type of cheese that's to your liking, you can feel free to add that as well. This is just a cheesy potato mixture that's going to go inside of your Boreka, which, blasphemy here. Break it open. There you go. So one thing I forgot in the Google Doc, but you should have on hand anyway, is eggs, because you have the egg wash, very important part of Sephardic baking. I called a few people up, and the consensus is that it's nice to have at least one egg in your mixture for binding, and it makes it, you know, come together, and it's easier to work with, because essentially you want your potato, you should be able to kind of actually even roll it with your hand so that it's its own, not dough, but like more solid than it is moist. Because if it's too moist, what happens is it can actually leak out of the sides. Not something we're looking for here. Okay, so anyone needs a little time to catch up, whoever is baking along, give you a moment or two. I'm just going
There's a question about how much water do you add to the dehydrated potato?
Sure. So again, the Sephardic baker in me is saying you kind of just eyeball it, but it's more about the consistency of the potato mixture than it is about the amount of water. I would say per 2 packs of these, or if you're doing one large box, which is usually at least 2 of these, if not 3, you would do this as 2.5 cups of water for one, but I would just do 2.5 cups with adding a little water for consistency to make sure everything's incorporated for 2 packs total. I know that doesn't exactly answer the question, but let's say 2.5 cups if you have 2 packs. If you're just using 1 pack because you're a smaller scale, I would do 1 cup at a time, make sure everything's incorporated. If you're still seeing the flakes kind of come through when you're mixing the mixture, then continue to add a little bit of water. You want the potatoes fully incorporated before you add the egg, because the water you should be using should be at least lukewarm, and you don't want to cook the egg with the potatoes before it's inside of the Boreka. Let's see, are there any other questions I can answer here? I'm just reading the chat a little bit.
That's it for right now.
Okay, great. Hi, everyone who's joined that I haven't said hi to. My Aunt Lori is here. We like to bake Borekas together. Zelly is here. It's really exciting. Hi, Zelly. All right, so let's get started. Your dough should be rested enough. This isn't a dough that really needs to rest. So here's the dough. How many ounces of potato flakes are in each pack? So the packs that I'm using from Costco have 5 ounces in them each. I think the box has closer to like 16 to 32 ounces if you're getting like the big box. So you can measure at that point. I would say this is like 2.5 cups of flakes in a pack if you're measuring. Feel free, if you're not doing this right now and you have a question, you can call me, or Rabbi, you have my email, you can put it in the chat. My hands are a little oily, otherwise I would. Or there's plenty of other resources here on this chat who might be able to answer.
Do you prefer your email or your text? What do you prefer?
Either one. I won't be able to do the text or email right this moment, but you can share either, whichever is easier for you. I can give you my number right now, actually, if you'd like, which is 425-444-8255. 8832. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have after. We'll do a little question. We can pause for questions if anyone has anything they want to ask while we're headed on to our next step. So I'm gonna go back to this view where I have my dough on my flour counter, which is kind of already absorbed because this is a pretty oily dough. And I'm just gonna give it a nice roll. Actually, I'm gonna split it in half. This is pretty large. So I'm gonna split it in half, put half to the side, half will go right into rolling. So, important about rolling.
Sarah, one question. If you're using 1 cup of Parmesan and 1 cup of potato, how much water?
I would say start with a half a cup of water and then add a little more as you're mixing.
Okay, and do you ever use whole wheat dough?
I believe I haven't done whole wheat this round in my last, month or so of doing testing, but I have successfully cooked with at least partial whole wheat before. I can't speak to many other flours, but whole wheat, you can definitely either, never done all whole wheat. You might need extra oil if you do whole wheat. But if you do a 50-50, you're as good as doing kind of whatever you're already doing with this recipe. Any other questions?
That's it for right now.
Okay, wonderful. So with the rolling, many of you, are already Sephardic bakers yourself, so it's really important to have that even roll.
Can you lower the camera a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. Here we go.
There we go.
So if I have places where the dough is thicker, I'm just going to compensate by rolling it out to we're kind of trying, I have some patchwork here, but that's okay. It'll all come together. This dough is very pliable and very elastic, which is what we want in order to get that flakiness in the Boreka. Okay. So we're going to go for about a ½ inch thick, and no issues if you can't get it that thin or if you're having any trouble, because at the end of the day, when we do our each individual Boreka, we're also going to be doing some, compensating there in terms of flattening and making sure the dough is nice and even. So this is my.
How thick again should the dough be?
About a ½ inch thick, but if you're concerned, I would rather you stay on the thicker side than the thinner side, because I'll demonstrate shortly. Actually, I have this I used a wine glass. Here, I'm going to show you my face at this point. My dad just came home. He'll join the picture soon. For those of you that don't know my dad, Ben Barron, wouldn't have been able to be here on this call without him, and my love for Sephardic baking. Say hi. All right.
Good. Board member Ben Barron, I love it.
Oh, he's a board member. One thing, if you haven't already, we're going to set our oven to 375. You know your oven better than I do, somewhere between. All right, my taste tester. Somewhere between 350 and 400 will be fine. We're going for a color here. Nice and golden. We like them a little extra golden in this house, but it's up to you. So we're going for golden. So 375, preheat your oven. If you haven't done so already, if your oven runs hot or low, somewhere between 350 and 400 should be fine. But if we can get some quiet in the peanut gallery, that'd be great. Okay. So I just want to show you, this is from the dough that I rolled out previously, and what happened, because I don't have cookie cutters. You can really use anything. We're Sephardim over here, so we get creative. So I used a wine glass. You could use a lid. You could use, I had over here, just a drinking glass. The circumference isn't going to matter as much. If you have a smaller, like this wine glass is actually smaller than I want it to be, then the dough can just be a little thicker. And what you do is what I'll show you. So that it actually, even because it's so elastic, it actually shrunk up and it's much thicker than I want it to be. So that's fine though, because I'm going to show you what happens next before we get into cutting our circles in, is I'm actually going to take this little disc of dough and flatten it. Usually I would do the counter, but you could do your palms. I think a lot of Sephardic baking happens in the hands. You know, you're just, and from the middle, you're just going to kind of push out to widen evenly and flatten your circle. So you're taking your thumbs in the middle and your 4 fingers underneath, and you're kind of in a pinch. Think of making like a pizza, but mini. And you want it to be, I know palms vary, but you want the whole dough to be about the size of an adult palm. So this is still small, too small. I'm widening it out to fit my entire palm. And again, get that dough to be circular and thinner. You're gonna wanna kind of just see through it, but keep it thick enough that it's not gonna break or leak when you put your mixture in. Now would be a great time for questions, as I'm just getting this particular piece ready to go.
No questions, just letting you know that someone went behind you to sneak another Boreka.
You know,
they're dangerous.
I guess they're that good. I've been making these as testing, and I've been giving them away by the dozen. So if you're a neighbor or a family member, you're lucky. On that note, I think it's hard to say because sometimes I've doubled the recipe, but when I did it with the Hassans, they made over 50 Borekas from one batch of dough. But depending on the size of your Borekas, and everybody kind of has something different to say about this, you know, the ratio to filling to dough. I like them pretty, like a medium size, which is, again, all these non-measurement measurements, right? But I'll explain more when we kind of get into that a little bit. So here is my dough that I've been working on. It's hard to tell, but it is a little bit translucent. I can see through it, but I'm still keeping its integrity. It's the circle. Everyone baking along, do you have your mixtures prepared? Are we ready for that step where your mixtures, all the potato flakes are incorporated, your cheese is in there, very well blended. You've added at least 1 egg, depending on how much, because that's the binder. So, okay, if we're ready, I'll just go like this. I didn't get a chance to do the circles yet, but it would look like this, where I'm just, and even if it becomes smaller, again, don't worry, because you're gonna be, the magic is in the hands. So, okay. So here we have our circle. I'm gonna use the dough I just made just to make sure that it's good and it's perfect, because it's nice and stretchy and elastic. Oop, be careful, more careful than I am. Put that in your hand or on the counter, wherever you feel more comfortable. And you're gonna take your mixture. Maybe you want to set up a different angle, Dad, so that they can see everything and my face. This is what I wanted to do earlier. Okay, so you take your mixture. I have a, this is, again, the measuring doesn't matter so much as the amount, the ratio. So this one broke. I am using this is what would be an American teaspoon as a guide. Once again, this is simply a guide, not a measurement. But if you are the measuring type, I'm sure that about a teaspoon's amount will do the trick, but it is going to be about the ratio. So I've got my teaspoon in here in the mixture, and I kind of use the shape of the spoon to create that inside. My mixture is a little wetter than I want it to be. It probably needs either another egg or extra flakes, additional flakes. Let's see, I'm trying to get the camera angle right. So I have my mixture in here. I want to leave room on, can we all see? Oh, it's kind of hard to see with the lighting. On either side, completely around the potato mixture, I need enough dough to pinch that together to kind of then create our crimping, which someone with better Ladino than I have can give us a little bit of a Ladino lesson on what that's called. Yes, Dad, someone with a better Ladino than I. I know that there's some of you here that have some very good Ladino. If you want to comment on what the crimping method is called, which I'm going to start to teach. Feel free to unmute yourself. Oh, no, no one? Okay.
I mean, they're all excited about learning the method.
They want to get to the method. They don't want to call it out in Ladino. That I understand. Kind of, say that again?
Repulgo.
Repulgo?
Repulgo.
Yeah.
I think it's how you say it.
I think the G is a little less pronounced, but I do agree that it's something along those lines. So again, my mixture is a little wet, but I also know what I'm doing. So I'm going to take both sides. You can be more careful about this. I want to let you know, this takes practice. Many people on here who know how to make Borekas have been doing this for a lifetime. Those of you who are newer to this, it's okay if your first few, if your entire batch today does not turn out the way that you want it to. Even though I'm on the younger end of things, again, I have been doing this collectively like years. And I've gotten my wrist slapped and a lot of advice from a Sephardic baker that actually knows what they're doing. At this point, I feel pretty confident, but it's okay if you have to use a fork method or if it's just not as beautiful as you'd like it to be. What's important is that, this is a little difficult because as I've talked too much, the dough is so elastic that it's actually shrunk. So I'm actually gonna use a different one and catch up. So again, I'm getting it all nice and thin out here. See that it's basically doubled in size and it's translucent. I'm putting it in my palm or on the counter. Maybe if you can see better on the counter. I'm getting my spoonful of potato mixture. Plopping it in the middle here. Okay. Can you all see that okay? I know this
Perfect. This is great.
Yeah? Okay, great. And I'm gonna take the piece closest to me, the dough, and kind of pull it up. And I'm gonna take the piece furthest away with my other hand and kind of meet them in the middle. And then I'm gonna start doing the basic pinch around the dough as a seal to make sure that it doesn't escape. And this is setting the stage for my crimping. So I want to keep the mixture on just centered and pinch around it with a nice little like dough overhang, okay? Once I've done that, I'm right-handed, so I'm going to take my dominant hand. I'm going to hold the Boreka very lightly with a light touch in my left hand, which is my non-dominant hand, and it's going to face me with my fingers supporting it and my thumb closest to me. And then I'm going to use like a pinch from your nana on the cheek, your index finger and your thumb. And you're going to just use your thumb to roll with, again, a light touch in and pinch. This is the hard part. All right, let's see if I can get a close up. So roll in and pinch, and then you're gonna pinch that, right? And then kind of pinch it out. And then your next step is to take the excess that you pinched, right? And roll it over and then pinch again. So it takes one or two of these to kind of actually see the design come to fruition. But you just continue to pinch in, getting excess dough and over and in and over with your thumb and index finger only. So in and over is the method. And kind of, you move your left hand or your non-dominant hand that you're holding it as you go, instead of moving your index fingers. And it's a pinch, and then you have Boreka.
Voila.
Okay, so everyone see?
Very, very pretty.
Okay, so then take that and I like to have a pan with parchment paper. I might have mentioned this in the beginning. I'm so sorry if I didn't. And I put them on the parchment paper. They do puff up in the oven. They do puff up. So I put them on a bit of a slant so I can fit as many as possible. And we'll just keep going. And then we'll end up doing an egg wash with some Parmesan, and then we'll put them in the oven. So let's do a few more. I welcome you guys to turn on your microphones, ask any questions, or do this with me. If anyone's actually baking and you need assistance and you wanna, this is the time. Because everything else after this is a little more work. So it's the same thing over and over. And that's how you get good at this. If it's not wonderful the first time, you just keep doing it over and over. So anyone have any?
Did you use egg wash before you put it in the oven?
Of course, of course. We're gonna do the egg wash and then some Parmesan on top. So I'm gonna just keep going with this and you'll see, we'll just crank out a few together. Any other questions?
Yeah, Sarah, I have a question.
Hi, Mom.
Hi there. Would you ever put sesames after the egg wash?
You absolutely could. I don't think that this is a particular recipe for sesame, in my personal opinion. But, you know, to each their own.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, so here I am. I've stretched out my circles that I have made. You'll kind of see some oil pulling down at your dough. It is, again, a very oily dough, and we want that. That's a good thing. If you need a little extra flour, I wouldn't sprinkle it right onto the dough. It's really more about so things aren't sticking to you. But you do want kind of an oiliness to the dough. That's a good thing. We're going to continue and it may take a few tries to get your potato ratio right. Some people like more of the dough part and some people love the inside. So that is also going to be a preference more or less. There's a lot of opinions on how to make a good Boreka. What I did just now, I accidentally got some of the mixture into the side. That's okay. That's going to happen every once in a while, but you can just either open it and push the potato back in, or just pinch it out enough that you know that it's dough to dough sticking together. And you've got your kind of crescent shape with the pinch. I'm just going to keep going again, do it again. So we push in and fold over, push in and fold over. Keep it going. Who here today is making Borekas along with me? Anyone? Just watching? At least
No, I could see lots of people making them.
Oh, there are. Okay, it's hard for me to see, but here's another one. And even if it's not perfect, this one happens to be, I'm a fan of this one.
That's a really good one. That came out really well.
Thank you. I don't know how. Even if it's not perfect, it's okay, because as long as, actually, in the back here, the feta is poking through, which is okay as long as you kind of just make sure that you can collect any excess dough and just smooth it over. We don't want any pockets, because any holes or pockets that are happening when the dough is dough and not baked means a potential leakage of our insides. So I just kind of patched that kind of almost hole up. And I'm going to put it on my pan. Also, if you're not a fan of the shape, there's a little bit of, you can work with it a little to kind of shape it out. This one, again, don't know how it happened, but it's beautiful. So we're going to put it on our pan. Go again. Any other questions? Let's see. I learned to use the edge of a drinking glass to cut and I'm imagining you're saying the dough. And the answer is yes, that is exactly what I'm doing.
There's a question about, do you ever put parm in the dough?
Oh, absolutely you can. Maybe that's something people do. I personally don't feel like the dough needs it. I think it's a good contrast to have just no cheese in the dough, but I'm sure there are
Can
many.
you talk a little bit about, I know it's Thanksgiving on Thursday. Some people like to do Borekas with what's it called?
You can do Borekas with anything. Well, you want to do like a meat Boreka?
No, I'm thinking the orange thing. I'm blanking.
Pumpkin?
Pumpkin
Okay,
Borekas.
yeah. I mean, essentially, it would be very similar. My dad's going to get in here and do some too. Again, he's a big reason why I learned, or how I learned. One of the many people that's taught me. With pumpkin, it would be similar. If this dough is parve, so it's really oil, water, flour, and some salt. So you can put anything, dairy, meat, anything you want inside. Traditionally, in the Sephardic custom, and it is, potato and cheese. But I'm sure across the different synagogues, like between EB and SBH, there might be some differences. And also, it sounds like there's people from around the Sephardic globe here, which is amazing. So you can really put anything in here. I know in more Mizrahi like customs, it's a very similar like dough, but they call this Elisa, I hear you're mouthing it, but I can't hear you with your mic. Do you know how to turn your mic off or on? Rabbi, can you turn Elisa Azos's mic, like unmute her?
I will try.
Cheese, spinach, or eggplant, says somebody in New York.
My
wonderful.
mother used to make sambusak.
Thank you, Elisa. Thank you so much.
And her stuffing was 3 different cheeses and egg.
Oh, yum. That's delicious.
I think in the notes here, Marlene says that in Rhodes, they use pumpkin Borekas for the hiratzones on Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, yum, delicious. So in my family, we do pumpkin falikas. So I know that somebody here did falikas with, I think, cheese also. But again, these recipes are so
interchangeable,
customizable. Called hers pastels. Yes. So in my opinion, a pastel is, I think it's the same dough, right, Dan? It's a dough is very, very similar. And in our Sephardic custom, the pastelikus or pastels are, again, the same type of dough, but with a meat mixture, sometimes rice, onion mixture. And in my experience at SBH, they're a different shape. But it is a very, very similar concept. With pumpkin, if you wanted to do this kind of thing with pumpkin and for Thanksgiving, which was Rabbi's question, I would do, your canned pumpkin or you could bake your pumpkin, get it to a puree, add an egg or two, maybe some, like a little bit of flour. Someone who does pumpkin can hop in here and help me out, because I've actually never made breakfast with pumpkin, but you can make them sweet, add a little bit of maybe like confectioner's sugar, or you could make them salty. I really think there's no wrong. Once you get the method down for the crimping and the dough, you can fill it with whatever you want.
Can you show us the crimping with a fork?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who are not confident in your crimping skills, first of all, give it a try. You can do it. Second of all, let me grab a fork really quick.
Ben, you're very quiet.
Wait, I'm working here. I'm concentrating.
Okay, so I ran out of dough circles, but I'll just make a few more. Once again, somebody said they use a glass, so do I. So, but if you have a cookie cutter or anything else. Joni says, pumpkin and cornstarch, just a tiny bit, can make savory or sweet, which I would imagine means add either a little sugar or more salt or something like that. Joni, feel free if this is something that you do to turn your mic off and let us know more. Okay, so in terms of fork method, this is if you gave this a shot in terms of the Rapolo and you're not really finding success, or you're just needing a really quick way, or you're baking with young kids maybe, or people who just don't have the patience to learn a new skill. And that all happens. So to me, there's no right or wrong. You know, now that I'm 4th generation Sephardic, and obviously there are many people here who disagree about right and wrong in terms of Sephardic baking, but if we're gonna keep these recipes alive, I think better something than nothing, right? So I see Daniela nodding along and saying, yes, absolutely. So if you want to get your grandkids, which that would have been me at one point, a grandkid, involved in this, and they can't seem to get that crimping done right, it happens. It really, really does. If you have all the patience in the world, kol hakavod, stick with it, because they're only going to get it if you have the patience and you want to teach them. But if you really need just beautiful borekas that do the job and taste delicious, I'm about to show you the fork method. So with the fork method, you're going to do the same crimping around, or like the seal, right? But you need less dough like pulled out to work with, because ultimately you're just sealing the seal. So I have my sealed potato, buraka, and I'm gonna take my fork, and this is very American pie, like where you just take your fork and you firmly press the edge from the point that you sealed.
Can you put down your camera a little?
Yes. Yeah. Where you firmly sealed, you'll kind of have a line there, and you're just adding the design to the seal. So kind of hard to see from there, but I'll show you here. Beautiful, right? I wish the lighting was better. Here I am like an influencer with my hands behind. So there's the fork method. And the goal really with the fork and the twist and the crimp is to seal the inside goodness, right? Because you don't want it leaking out. So let me just show you before.
Can you show us the next stage? Can you show us
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to do.
Egg and putting it in the oven and what it looks like when it comes out?
Exactly. So once you have a whole sheet, or plenty, you're going to take your pan. Maybe I'll see. I know that the parchment paper. Okay. I think that the lighting is a little hard. Can you just confirm that you can see okay?
Looks great.
Okay, great. This is kind of blasphemous. I'm putting the dough right up here. Put it right on top. Don't do what I just did. I'm just doing this for demonstration. Okay, so can we all see? Okay, so just like any other, egg wash, which pretty classic, right? I've just taken one egg. For convenience and taste, I put it right into the empty cheese container. Kind of picks up those flavors, and it leaves one less thing I have to wash, right? Because I can just throw this out or wash it if we're being environmentally conscious. And I take my egg brush, silicone if you have a brush, whatever works for you. You can even use your hands if you need to. And very lightly brush the borekas with your egg wash. And you don't want any like pockets of egg, because then it's just going to be egg on your burka, and that's not what people are in for when they want a burka. Then I take my Parmesan cheese, and if you don't already have like the ground kind and you have those longer, just take your fingers to the long strands and crumble them a little more, or put them in a lightly pulsed in a food processor, because for this step you want the like nice little crumbles. And from high up above, just a little sprinkle. Some people really they really love this step, and all the Parmesan. For me, It's more decorative and it is part of the taste, but I like to be a little more conservative. So after that, I would put it in my oven at 375. Unfortunately, because these are so laborious, I did not have a chance to make 2 rounds of Borekas, but we can imagine that these beautiful Borekas here came right out of the oven, and I put them on a cooling rack. I think my dad ate the best ones, but here's one that's really beautiful crimp.
Wow, beautiful.
Yeah.
How long in the oven for?
That's a great question. So the oven, it's going to be dependent on your oven. Again, we're going for gold. So I would say check after 20 to 25 minutes. I found that with my oven, which I left the door open to, it actually takes 35 at 375. But this is the kind of thing that after 20 minutes, you just want to be very observant of so that you don't run into burning your Borekas.
Well, I want to thank you, Sarah, for a wonderful masterclass on baking Borekas. I love eating them, but now I feel confident maybe, just maybe, making them. But this has been really, really fun. And we want to thank the family of Catherine Sharon for sponsoring this in her memory, the Catherine Sharon Zoom Baking. And thank you, Sarah, for being a wonderful master class demonstrator. And want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Before we close down the Zoom, though, I would love, love, love to see if anyone has been baking along. I can only see so many screens at once, but I'm going to just do some scrolling. So definitely show me what you've come up with. I'd love to see. Hassan girls, I know you're baking. Can I see any of yours? You are all so welcome. Thank you all. Thank you for coming. Great to see most of you that I know. Wonderful to see those of you that I don't. I think, Rabbi, it's recorded and it's going to be on Facebook, right?
Yeah, I'll put it on Facebook. It's already on the Facebook on the Sephardic Brotherhood's site, but I'll be uploading this to YouTube later. So thank you very much, everyone, and happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming.